back to my channel. Today we are going to be diving into the new palette from Vanity Makeup. So this is called the Signature Palette. This palette retails for $95, which I will get into the cost breakdown and compare it to other palettes that are out in the market in just a minute. Many of you guys reached out to me when this launched, asked if I would review this because you were very curious why the price was so high on this palette. So I decided to pick it up. I'm going to give you the 411 on it. I created 3 eyeshadow looks using this palette in this video, and I will also do swatches of this palette next to a bunch of other palettes that I have in my collection that are similar in color stories, so you guys can see how the shades compare and if it is actually something that you need in your collection. It has 3 different textures in the palette. It is made in Italy, and the packaging is very beautiful. It is gorgeous, very well made, closes really easily. You can tell the packaging was well thought out, and the packaging's beautiful. As far as luxe goes, this is pretty luxe. It's not super heavy, so if I compare it to a Pat McGrath, we all know how much this weighs. This is kind of hefty. It definitely doesn't weigh as much as a Mothership palette does, but it does have some weight to it, and it has a lot of detail. It has the little ridge detail right here in gold. I love this color. I love the color combination, and I also love that they used that color on the outside on the inside, because then I really can see the shades for what they are. So overall, the packaging was fantastic. When I ordered it, it shipped out pretty quickly and immediate, and it arrived at my door pretty quickly. So overall, my experience has been fantastic, but everybody is so curious to find out why this palette is $95. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into the price breakdown of this palette next to a few other palettes that are out in the market that are more high-end. So, like I said, the palette is made in Italy. It is $95. It has 24 grams worth of product, which is 0.85 ounces. And that makes this palette $3.96 per gram. So you get quite a bit of product. You almost get a full ounce worth of product in the palette. Now, how does that compare to Pat McGrath? Okay, so as we all know, Pat McGrath's palettes are crazy expensive. They're $125. But she is a very well-known, world-renowned artist that is incredible. Like, we all know Pat McGrath is incredible. She's an artist. She's a genius. She's amazing. So her palettes have a high price tag. They are made in Italy. And what makes Pat McGrath's palette special are these 4 shades over here on this corner. Those are kind of her specialty shades that are very, very hard to dupe. Almost impossible. The textures on them are nothing like I have in my collection. And I think that's why we kind of love these Motherships, right? Like, we love these Mothership palettes because of those special shades. So let's break down the price of this palette. Like I said, this palette retails for $125. You get 13.2 grams worth of product, which is 0.47 ounces. That makes this palette $9.47 per gram. So much more than the Vanity Makeup. You don't get as much product in a Pat McGrath Mothership palette as you do in the Vanity Makeup palette. Let's compare it to the new Patrick Ta palette. So this one launched kind of similar color story. There are some differences, but kind of similar, which I will do some swatches. So this palette recently launched from Patrick Ta. This is called the Major Dimension Eyeshadow Palette. The Patrick Ta palette is made in the USA. You have 2 cream shadows here on the end, and you have these 10 shades here, so 12 shades total. Now, this palette retails for $68. You get 21.6 grams worth of product, which is 0.78 ounces. That makes this palette $3.15 per gram. Now, remember, the Vanity Makeup palette is $3.96. So the Patrick Ta is just a little bit cheaper per gram than the Vanity Makeup. Let's compare it to the Wayne Goss palette. Now, the reason why I wanted to compare it to the Wayne Goss palette is because Wayne Goss palettes are weighty. They have a lot of product in here. There are only 6 shades in this palette. Of course, there's 12 in the Vanity Makeup, but Wayne Goss, he gives us a lot of product. These are huge pans with a lot of product. So I wanted to compare the price point so you guys could kind of see where this palette lines up in the palettes that we're used to buying. So this palette retails for $55. You get 16.2 grams worth of product, which is 0.57 ounces. That makes this palette $3.40 per gram. Now this is made in the USA. Patrick Ta palette and the Wayne Goss palette are in line with the cost of this Vanity Makeup palette. But the Vanity Makeup is made in Italy. The Wayne Goss and the Patrick Ta's are both made in the USA. Okay, so let's move on to Natasha Denona, okay? We all love Natasha Denona. This is her midi palette. She has several sizes of palettes, but I decided to go with this palette. So this palette retails for $65. This has 19.25 grams worth of product, and that's 0.67 ounces. This palette is $3.38 per gram, and it's made in Italy. So this palette is actually cheaper per gram than the Vanity Makeup. The Vanity Makeup is almost $4 per gram. It's $3.96. Kind of interesting that the Natasha Denona is cheaper per gram and cheaper in price than the Vanity Makeup, and they're both made in Italy. The final product that I wanted to mention is this from Tati Beauty. So when this palette launched, everybody said this is just like the Tati Beauty Volume 1 palette. This is the neutrals or something. I can't remember what this is called. Anyway, it's her only palette that she's launched so far. And this has a lot of different textures going on. You have the glitter, you have a metallic, you have the sequins, and then you have the matte. So there's a lot of shades in here, a lot of options. This palette retails for $48, and you get 22.5 grams worth of product, and that makes this palette $2.13 per gram. So just so you guys can get an idea of this palette, the price, and where it lines up with other palettes that we're used to buying in our collection. So now that we have that information out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the 3 eyeshadow looks that I created using this palette. Then we will jump into the swatches and comparisons, comparing it to other palettes that are out on the market. And then we will jump into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. So this is how it comes. I haven't even unwrapped it to look at it. I just got it in the mail. Here we are. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this tape. So it's wrapped up in tissue paper, and then it's got bubble wrapping like this. So it's well wrapped. I will say that. This is the box. It's kind of a really pretty pink with the gold. I like these colors together. These are kind of my favorite colors together. And then this is what the actual palette looks like. So the box actually matches the actual packaging. So you can see it has these little ridges. So this is what it looks like. You can see those little ridges like right up into here. And that's the palette. So you have a full-size mirror here, which is nice. So these are the 3 diamond sparkle shades. And they're very pretty. Shimmers are really nice. They're not super chunky. They're very kind of buttery feeling. They're not chunky at all. They don't have any chunk to them whatsoever. Very, very smooth. They're one of those shimmers that just kind of glide on without picking up a lot of product. You know how some of the shimmers, you'll go to swatch it and you'll just get like a big chunk of it on your finger. So it will be kind of chunky as you swatch. These are very, very smooth. So as you can see in this swatch right here, it has no chunk to it. And most of what's on the finger is now on the hand. Now, as for the mattes, I'm curious how these swatch. That's a good swatch. It's a good swatch. They do feel very buttery. I'm curious about this. That's the palette. That's kind of the details on it. Let's go ahead and jump into the first tutorial. So I'm going to go into this shade right here and kind of use it as a base, like right up here on the brow bone, and kind of highlight the brow bone a little bit. I haven't applied any concealer, just foundation. Let's go into this shade right here. Now I'm going to grab a small pencil brush and I'm going to go into this shade right here. I'm going to go back to that tan shade I was using and kind of use that to kind of blend it out. I'm going to add a little bit of warmth. I'm going to go into the orange. Now I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to start working with the bottom row. I'm going to take my Smith 253 brush and I'm going to go into this shade right here. And I'm going to apply this dry first. I wanted to see how these will work without putting it over top of a shimmer, you know, because these are definitely more of a topper shade, but I wanted to kind of get the texture of them. So now I'm just going to take my finger. I'm going to grab my finger and press it. Okay, now the nice thing is I'm only getting just a tiny few specks of fallout. I'm not getting very much fallout with this. It's applying really beautifully and really easily. Like, I'm not having any issues with these glitter topper shades. I mean, it's really pretty. I went ahead and threw on some concealer. I'm going to go ahead and work on the lower lash line. I am going to take the BK Beauty 203 brush and I'm going to go into this shade and kind of smoke it out. For the inner corner, I'm going to grab this shimmer shade right here. Damn, that's pretty. Woo! That is pretty. I think I'm also going to take a tiny bit of that and put it right here on the center of the lid. Okay, so I'm back. This is the final look for look number 1. I do want to mention that on the lower lash line, I went ahead and grabbed my, this is the Flat Definer E15 from Sigma, and I went into this dark matte brown shade and just kind of buffed it in right there on the lash line. And then I just threw on a lash with a tiny, tiny bit of mascara. The lash I'm wearing is the Ardell Naked Lashes in the style 420. Of course, I could create this look with other palettes that I have in my collection, but this is the final look for look number 1. Let's go ahead and jump into look number 2. So let's go ahead and jump into look number 2. I want to kind of play with some of the blacks, see how the black wears. And I also want to play with this shade. So I'm going to grab this shade. I'm using the Wayne Goss number 20 brush. And I'm just going to kind of bring this all over into the crease and just kind of add like a light layer of it to kind of define the crease. Then I'm going to take the small pencil brush and I'm going to put that on the inner corner and the outer corner. Just to kind of give me a base. Now I'm going to go into the dark brown. I'm going to grab this shade right here. I'm going to take a clean brush and just kind of go over that and blend it out. Now I'm going to go in with the black. I'm going to use the BK Beauty 204 brush. It's a small little tiny smudge brush. I'm going to grab a little bit of the black. Now I'm going to go back to that pencil brush. I'm going to go into the chocolate brown color, and I'm going to go right over top of it and use the chocolate brown to kind of blend it out. I'm going to go back to my blending brush. I'm going to go back to that first shade, the light brown, and just kind of use that to kind of blend out all of these edges. Okay, I'm going to leave that there for now. Now I'm going to go in with my finger into this shade right here, right over top in the center. And I am going to grab this shade right here, place it right here on the center. Okay, I hardly got any fallout with that either. I mean, I was using the blacks, I was using those chocolate browns and really building. I hardly got any fallout. I'm not going to need to wipe it, which is pretty impressive. I got some concealer on. Let's move on to the lower lash line. I'm going to take the 203 from BK Beauty. I'm going to grab this shade right here and just kind of bring that along the lower lash line. I'm going to take the Refer number 2 brush. I'm going to go into the chocolate brown. I am going to smoke that in, keeping it closer to the lash line. Then I'm going to go to that Sigma flat definer, and I'm going to grab the black. Just going to smoke this into the outer corner, kind of creating some definition. Then I'm going to go back to this brush, and that has some of that chocolate brown on it, and kind of blend that black out. Okay, so this is the final look for look number 2. I went ahead and threw on the same lash as the other side. This is the Ardell Naked Lashes in the style 420. And this is a really pretty eyeshadow look. This is kind of a perfect like a date night look. If you're going somewhere and you're wearing a black dress, this is actually very easy to create, very beautiful. The black blends really beautifully. No issues. Like, zero issues. In fact, as I was off camera, I was kind of swatching it and playing with it, and it's a great black. I mean, that is a good black. That's it for look number 2. I'm going to go ahead and wipe these off, and we're going to start with look number 3, which will be the final look. Okay, so I went ahead and wiped off both of those eyeshadow looks. Let's go ahead and jump into look number 3. I'm going to grab the eyeliner from NARS. This is in the shade Mambu. For my wing, I like to use my lower lash line as kind of the guide. So I'm going to take the pencil right here at the base of the lashes. I'm going to take it right here at the corner, and I'm just going to kind of make a line. So... and then I'll just kind of connect it. Then I'm going to switch to the 204 from BK Beauty and smudge this out. Okay, next up, I'm going to go into this shade right here. And I'm going to use that shade to kind of connect that liner into the crease. Kind of carving out the crease. Then I'm going to take a small pencil brush and I'm going to go into that shade, and I'm going to follow the line where that liner is. So I'm just going right over top of that liner, and then I'm going to go into this shade right here. Now I'm going to take this flat definer and I'm going to go into the shade right here. I'm going to go right over top of the liner and really bring that liner kind of back to life. So now I'm going to go into this shade right here. I think I'm going to go in with my finger first and see how this applies with the finger. Because I have nails, it's hard for me to apply it fully with my finger. So I am going to go in with the Smith 253 brush, and I am going to apply this all over the lid. Kind of bringing it up. I'm like tipping my head back and kind of bringing it up and into the crease. So I went ahead and threw on some concealer. Let's move on to the lower lash line. So I'm going to grab a pencil brush and I'm going to go into this shade right here. I am going to bring that like right here. Such a pretty shade. And I'm going to go back to that BK Beauty 203 brush. I'm going to go into the gray shade, this one right here. I'm going to kind of put that on the lower lash line, but keeping most of the pigment out here. Brush, and I'm going to go into this shimmery shade right here. Place that like right here on the inner corner just to really, ooh, I like that. I'm going to bring a little bit of that up right here. So this is the final look. I went ahead and did this other eye, put some lashes on, finished the rest of my makeup, and I am back. And this eyeshadow look turned out really, really pretty. It is just really beautiful. That shade on the lid, oh, it's pretty. It's sparkly and just really pops. Now we're going to go ahead and jump into the swatches, and I'm going to swatch this palette next to a bunch of other palettes that I have in my collection. Then, of course, after we get through the swatches and comparisons, I will jump into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. Okay, so now that we've made it through the swatches and comparisons, I hope that those comparisons were very helpful for you. Let me go ahead and get into my final thoughts. Packaging is very similar to Gucci's. You guys have ever seen the Gucci Compact? They have these little ridges. It's very similar. The Gucci is more pink. This is more nude, but it has that similar look. So if you have this from Gucci and you love it, you'll love the packaging on the Vanity makeup. I have to tell you, this palette swatched better than any palette I've ever swatched. These mattes swatch like a dream. The black feels a little creamy. It's not creamy, but it has a little bit more of a creaminess to it than the other mattes in the palette. Very impressed with this palette. I have to tell you, yes, the $95 is a very expensive price tag, but very impressed with this palette. And I like the textures in this palette. Like, these three shades are stunning, and the shimmer shadows are so smooth. They have no chunkiness to them. As you guys saw in all three of the looks, I got no fallout. When I used the Diamond Sparkle, I got a tiny bit. I never once had to take a makeup wipe and go under and wipe my eyes. So yes, the $95 is a steep price. It is. But this is, in my opinion, a luxury palette. This is what you want when you're buying a luxury palette. The overall quality of the palette is there. And when I did the cost breakdown, you get a lot of product in the palette. Now, that all determines if you have a lot of makeup. If you don't have a lot of makeup in your collection and you like to buy something and use it all the time, you will probably really love this palette because you'll get a lot of use out of it. I kind of wish they gave you less product and dropped the price. That's my opinion, especially because we're reaching the point where there's so many palettes out on the market and so much makeup out on the market. that I don't feel like we need this much product in a palette. So I would have preferred them to give us a little bit less product and drop the price a little bit, because if this palette was like 65, 70-ish, I would be screaming from the rooftop, because I actually like this palette more than the Patrick Ta palette. And there's a few reasons for that. Number one, I struggled with these topper shades. I was so excited about these topper shades, but I have to build them and build them and build them. And then I end up getting fallout, and it just kind of like, ugh. Every time I use them, it ruins my look. So I always have to use this palette before I do the rest of my makeup. I can't do my under eyes when I use this. I just can't. So the topper shades in this palette were very disappointing for me. Love the cream shadows in here, and his mattes are very buttery. But this palette, these, like, she did these shades right. I don't have anything like these in my collection where they apply like these do. These, like, diamond sparkle shades, this is how it's supposed to be done. This is how all of them are supposed to be done. Even the topper shade from Charlotte Tilbury drives me crazy because it gets so hard panned and I have to scratch it and kind of get the pigment to come up. This is the Pillow Talk. I like this palette. I do. But this topper shade is kind of a pain in the butt to use. It is absolute perfection. You can tell that whoever developed it and created it, I'm assuming the owner of the brand, she went above and beyond to perfect this pigment right here. This is how it's supposed to be done. So that's why I'm saying that this is, in my opinion, a luxury palette. It is, because the mattes are beautiful. I mean, the swatches. You guys, when I was swatching that palette, I was like, get out of here. It swatches so easily. Those mattes are just perfection. The $95 is a super steep price. I hear you. I have to admit it. This is a great quality palette. It is. It's luxurious, feels luxurious, looks stunning, okay? Gorgeous. The packaging is just perfect. And the shimmers are so smooth. They have no chunk to them. They blend and just apply like a shimmer shadow should. But those diamond sparkle shades, oh my gosh. I love all of it. It's just a great palette. I don't really have anything negative to say about the palette. It applies beautifully. And it is a luxurious palette, in my opinion. You can tell the quality is there. And, you know, a lot of people say, well, it's made in Italy, it has to be good. That is not always the case. I am here to tell you. Just because a palette is made in Italy does not mean that it is going to be a great palette. Like, I think that's a little bit of a misperception. But if this was on your radar and you're okay with spending the $95, I don't think you'll be disappointed. There's a lot of times, you know, I review a lot of high-end makeup and I spend a high price. I mean, I pay for these products myself. And there's a lot of the times that I will buy a high-end luxury product and I'm so disappointed in it. This, I am not. I am not disappointed in the quality. I'm not disappointed in the way that it applied, the overall packaging, the whole 9 yards. I'm just not disappointed. So, the Tati Beauty, how it compares, there is, in my opinion, no comparison. And the reason why, I mean, I reviewed the Tati Beauty palette. I didn't love this palette. I know that here's the thing. I got a lot of hate for that review. You know, it's an older video. It's been up for a while, but there was a lot of nasty comments in there that I just kind of had to block people because I'm a fan of Tati. It wasn't anything against her, but people came after me hard for going after this palette. But it had nothing to do with Tati because I'm a fan of Tati as well. I'm glad she's back creating content. But I liked the glitter pigments. Glitter applies exactly what I want from a glitter. But I hated the mattes in this palette. It stopped me from using it. And I don't love the sequence row either. It just wasn't my favorite palette. I felt like I really had to work hard, especially in the mattes, to make them blend. Like this shade right here. I hate that shade. It just does not want to blend for me whatsoever. It just drove me bonkers. The metallic shadows, this row right here, they're a typical metallic formula. They're a shimmer, not metallic, they're a shimmer. But they apply beautifully. but I don't reach for it unless I need glitter. That's the only time I reach for this palette, is when I want to apply glitter. Now remember, this is chunky, straight up glitter. This is real glitter, okay? I prefer this more diamond sparkle wet type of look than glitter. I feel like glitter, it's sometimes a little bit too strong for me. So I prefer this diamond sparkle, like softer look on the eye where it's more wet. Like I'm loving the eye look. I keep looking in the monitor. It's just so pretty. And that's why I was disappointed in the Patrick Ta, because you really have to build these shades to get this level of intensity. And I end up getting a lot of fallout with that because I have to build it so much. So that was a disappointment in this palette. And this one from Vanity Makeup, not even a little bit disappointed. It is fantastic. The price is steep, yes. So you have to decide, is it something that you really need? Probably not. But if you decide that you are interested and you want to get it, I really don't think you'll be disappointed. I really don't. It is a great palette. Those are my overall thoughts. Sound off down below in the comment section. Let us know your thoughts on this palette. Have you guys bought this palette? And if you have, how do you feel about it? $95 is pretty steep, but much, much better quality than I personally expected. I really did not expect this quality. It's perfect. I don't know that there's anything in this palette that I would change, to be honest. So those are my overall thoughts. Sound off down below in the comment section. Let us know. I really love this palette, but I really wish that it was cheaper. I really do. I feel like if they would have given us less product and kept the price point between 60 and 70, I think people would be over the moon over this palette. That's my opinion. I think because they made the choice to give you more product and hike up the price, I think that's probably where they made this mistake, but that's just my opinion. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Sound off down below in the comment section. Let us know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in today's video. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.